We can be the champions, we can own the night. Yeah, might destroy us, but we gotta.
Mga kababayan, sa lahat ng mga nanonood sa Pilipinas at sa lahat ng mga pupunta dito sa Thailand, I'm so excited.
Been better, and I don't know what I'm crying.
Ladies and gentlemen, tighten your seatbelts, because what you are about to experience is not a routine tennis breakdown or a polite post-match recap. This is a story soaked in national pride, suffocating pressure, and one of the most volatile implosions Southeast Asian sports has witnessed in years. If you still believe tennis is only about quiet applause, gentlemanly smiles, and respectful handshakes, prepare for that illusion to be shattered. What unfolded here was far bigger than a semi-final. It was a diplomatic powder keg wrapped in a sporting event, complete with hostile crowds, emotional warfare, and a collapse so dramatic it sent shockwaves far beyond the court. Welcome back, where we don't water down the truth, where we dig into the moments that mainstream coverage prefers to gloss over, and where today's story delivers tension, controversy, and cold-blooded dominance in equal measure. This chapter has it all: a young star standing alone against an entire arena, bizarre accusations that defied logic, and a performance so ruthless it permanently altered a regional hierarchy. By the end of this story, you will understand why Alexandra Eala is no longer just a promising talent but a force with nerves of steel who served one of the iciest lessons in SEA Games history. The setting was Nonthaburi, Thailand, during the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in December, an event that carries a weight few outside the region fully understand. SEA Games tennis is not a garden party. It is not Wimbledon's hushed lawns or polite applause echoing off tradition. This is combat. When the Philippines and Thailand meet on a tennis court, especially on Thai soil, the match transforms into something far more intense than sport. Every rally becomes a referendum on national pride. Every point feels like a statement of dominance. The National Tennis Development Center was packed beyond capacity, flooded with Thai supporters who arrived with one clear mission: witness their homegrown star, Thasapor Naklo, crush the Filipino challenger and march confidently toward gold. Drums thundered. Flags waved relentlessly. The noise was so overwhelming it felt as if the building itself vibrated with expectation before a single ball had been struck. This was Naklo's stage, her territory, her moment. The crowd, the conditions, and the pressure all pointed toward a home victory celebration waiting to happen. Across the net stood Alex Eala, just 20 years old but already carrying a resume that dwarfed the assumptions being made about her. She had carved her name into history as the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam singles title. She sharpened her game at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, tested herself against international competition, and clawed her way toward the WTA Top 150. More importantly, she walked onto that court carrying the hopes of a nation that had spent decades watching Thailand dominate regional tennis. But what truly separates Eala from countless other gifted prospects is not just her technique or athleticism. It is her temperament. She does not buckle under hostility, she feeds on it. While many players shrink when surrounded by boos and whistles, Eala becomes sharper, colder, more precise. She stepped onto that court fully aware that thousands of people wanted her to fail, and it meant absolutely nothing to her. She was there to work, not to be liked. From the opening games, it became painfully clear that this match was not going to follow the script the crowd had written. Eala exploded out of the gate with ruthless intent. Her left-handed forehand cut through the court like a blade, landing on lines that seemed almost impossible to reach. Her serve jumped viciously away from Naklo's backhand, forcing awkward stretches and late reactions. Every time the Thai star attempted to settle into a rhythm, Eala responded with a shot so clean, so decisive, that it erased any momentum instantly. The first set unfolded like a controlled demolition. Eala tore through it 6-1 in what felt like the blink of an eye. The roaring arena fell into stunned disbelief. This was not supposed to happen. Naklo was the favorite. She had the rankings, the crowd, and the comfort of home. None of it mattered. On the other side of the net stood a player who had already faced larger stages and harsher environments, and she looked completely unfazed. As the second set began, the energy shifted, but not because of improved tennis quality. Something felt off. The flow of the match started to fracture in strange ways. Observers courtside and fans watching closely noticed repeated interruptions. Naklo began taking excessive time between points. Shoes were retied at suspicious moments. Towel breaks stretched just long enough to disrupt rhythm. Each time Eala prepared to serve with focus and intensity, Something intervened to slow things down. Gamesmanship exists in tennis, and no player is entirely innocent, but what unfolded crossed from strategy into visible desperation. It was clear Naklo was searching for anything that could unsettle Eala because she could not outplay her cleanly. The crowd amplified this chaos. Whistles pierced the air during Eala's service toss. Cheers erupted wildly after her faults, as if points had already been won. The Thai supporters were not there to appreciate skill or competition. They were there to influence the outcome however possible. The environment bordered on psychological warfare, designed to suffocate concentration and provoke mistakes. Yet champions reveal themselves precisely in moments like this. They do not plead with umpires. They do not crumble. They adapt. Eala did exactly that. She retreated into her mental bubble, eyes locked on the baseline, breath steady, focus unbroken. The noise became irrelevant. Fueled by crowd energy and constant disruptions, Naklo finally mounted resistance. She struck the ball harder, grunted louder, and attempted to physically impose herself on the match. The score tightened. At 4-4, the arena erupted with belief. Drums accelerated. Chants grew frantic. For a fleeting moment, it looked as if the momentum might finally swing. Then, with the match balanced on a knife's edge, Eala reminded everyone why she was different. She broke serve with a breathtaking cross-court forehand that kissed the sideline so perfectly even some Thai fans acknowledged it in stunned silence. The noise vanished instantly. It was the first time all afternoon the arena truly fell quiet. Serving at 5-4, Eala showed no nerves, no hesitation, no mercy. She delivered a flawless service game, closing the match 6-1, 6-4 with clinical efficiency. On paper, it looked straightforward. In reality, it was a masterclass in mental strength under siege. She had outplayed Naklo in every meaningful aspect and secured her place in the gold medal match. She packed her bag, offered a polite wave to the small group of Filipino supporters who had endured the hostile atmosphere, and walked off court composed and dignified. The match was over. Or so it seemed. What no one realized in that moment was that the tennis was finished, but the Real explosion was still waiting behind closed doors. What followed after the final point was not celebration, not reflection, and certainly not sportsmanlike closure. What unfolded next transformed a dominant semi-final into a moment that would echo across Southeast Asian sports for years. Tennis is built on tradition. No matter how fierce the battle, no matter how bitter the rivalry, the handshake at the net is sacred. It is the one moment where respect is expected, even if it is forced. But witnesses standing near the court that day described the exchange between Alex Eala and Thasapor Naklo as icy enough to freeze the air. Naklo barely looked up. There was no smile, no acknowledgement, no sense of mutual respect. Just a quick, dismissive touch of hands before she turned away. The tension was visible, heavy, uncomfortable. Eala, ever composed, showed no reaction. She gathered her equipment and calmly exited the court, already shifting her focus toward recovery and preparation for the final. For her, the job was done. For Naklo, the loss was just beginning to consume her. The walk from the court to the locker rooms is usually quiet, filled with tired athletes cooling down, stretching, replaying points in their heads. That calm never arrived. Instead, the narrow hallway became the stage for an emotional collapse that stunned everyone present. Naklo, still in her match kit, sweat-soaked and riding a surge of adrenaline, began unraveling in full view of players, officials, and staff. Her movements were frantic. She paced back and forth, arms slicing through the air, voice rising with every sentence. At first, it sounded like a normal venting session, frustration spilling out after a painful defeat. But the volume kept rising. The words grew sharper. Conversations around her stopped. Officials paused mid-discussion. Players froze, sensing something was wrong. The atmosphere shifted from post-match routine to electric tension in seconds. Then came the sentence that changed everything. According to multiple eyewitnesses, Naklo shouted words so shocking they instantly silenced the hallway. She screamed that she could not respect Alex Eala simply because she was Filipino. Those words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. This was no longer about tennis. This was no longer about missed shots or lost opportunities. It was a direct attack on identity, on nationality, on something far deeper than sport. In one emotional outburst, Naklo exposed the raw undercurrent of regional rivalry and resentment that often hides beneath the surface of competition. The shock on the faces around her said it all. This was a line no professional athlete is expected to cross. Naklo did not stop there. Her anger kept spilling over, morphing into accusations that left seasoned officials staring in disbelief. She claimed Eala had deliberately slowed the pace between points, accusing her of time-wasting and intentional disruption. The irony was impossible to ignore. Anyone who had watched the match had seen who benefited from delays, who tied shoes at critical moments, who extended breaks whenever momentum slipped away. Yet in the grip of defeat, logic had no place. Naklo demanded reviews, questioned officiating, and grasped desperately for anything that could explain a loss she was not ready to accept. The hallway remained silent, not out of respect, but out of shock. This was not routine frustration. This was a full-scale meltdown. The accusation that Alexandra Eala, one of the most disciplined and professional young players in the sport, had cheated or manipulated the match was baffling to everyone present. But anger rarely seeks truth. It seeks escape. Naklo was not arguing facts. She was searching for someone else to blame for her inability to stop a superior opponent on the court. And as her voice echoed through the corridor, the tension climbed toward a breaking point. Now imagine the situation from Eala's perspective. She had just survived a grueling semi-final under hostile conditions. Her body was drained. Her mind was already turning toward the gold medal match. She was seated near the physio area, calmly cooling down, methodically retaping the grip on her racket. She heard everything. Every accusation. Every insult. Every word questioning her integrity and her identity. The entire hallway seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. Most athletes, especially at such a young age, would have snapped. Raised voices. Pointed fingers. Security stepping in. A messy scene splashed across headlines. That is how these moments usually end. But Alexandra Eala is not built like most athletes. She did not react immediately. She did not look up. She did not rush to defend herself. She continued taping her racket with deliberate precision, her face unreadable, her posture calm. That silence was louder than any shouting. It was the stillness before something decisive. Slowly, deliberately, Eala stood up. She did not storm across the hallway. She did not demand attention. She simply walked toward Naklo, who was still gesturing angrily, still pleading her case to officials who no longer knew how to respond. Eala approached. The noise began to fade. Naklo noticed her presence mid-sentence and stopped speaking. Officials instinctively stepped back. The hallway fell into a silence heavier than the roar of the crowd earlier that day. In that moment, everyone understood they were witnessing something that would be remembered. Eala stood tall, calm, and composed, looking less like a rattled semi-finalist and more like a champion who had already outgrown the chaos around her. Her eyes locked onto Naklo's. She did not blink. She did not look away. Her gaze alone commanded attention. Then came the line that ended everything. Without raising her voice, without a hint of emotion, Alexandra Eala delivered a sentence so sharp, so perfectly timed, it cut through the entire situation instantly. She said that the scoreboard does not care where you are from, it only cares about who won. 3 seconds. That was all it took. No insults. No shouting. No escalation. Just an undeniable truth stated with surgical calm. The effect was immediate. Naklo stood frozen, her face flushing deep red, not from exertion but from humiliation. There was no response because there could be none. The scoreboard read 6-1, 6-4. Facts are undefeated. Scoreboards do not lie. Without waiting for a reply, without lingering for drama, Eala turned away, slung her bag over her shoulder, and walked down the hallway. She did not look back. She had a final to prepare for and no energy to waste on noise. That moment defined everything. It was championship mentality in its purest form. Not dominance through volume, but authority through composure. Not aggression, but control. The kind of response that legends are remembered for. In that hallway, Alexandra Eala did not just win a tennis match. She won the moment. The aftermath of that hallway moment spread like wildfire, igniting debates, emotions, and national pride across Southeast Asia. Within hours, the story had escaped the confines of the tennis venue and exploded onto social media platforms. Filipino fans rallied instantly, flooding timelines with messages of support, pride, and defiance. Hashtags celebrating Eala's composure and condemning disrespect began trending, while clips from the match, the cold handshake, and leaked accounts of the locker room confrontation were shared thousands of times. For a nation that had long watched its tennis players struggle in the regional shadow of Thailand, Alex Eala became more than an athlete in that moment. She became a symbol of progress, resilience, and earned respect. Filipino supporters were not just defending a player, they were defending the idea that excellence demands acknowledgement, regardless of flag or location. On the other side, reactions were more divided. Some Thai fans attempted to downplay the incident, framing it as raw emotion in the heat of defeat. Others criticized Naklo openly, arguing that frustration is no excuse for crossing lines of professionalism and respect. Neutral observers largely sided with Eala, pointing out that her response was measured, factual, and far more dignified than anything that preceded it. Sports analysts highlighted the contrast between the two athletes, one unraveling under pressure, the other growing stronger as tension intensified. The incident became a case study in how champions behave when tested beyond the scoreline. This controversy also cemented something unavoidable: a rivalry had been born. Alex Eala and Thasapor Naklo are young, ambitious, and destined to cross paths again. SEA Games, Asian Championships, and potentially the WTA Tour will place them on opposite sides of the net many times in the future. And every meeting will now carry the weight of what happened in Nonthaburi. Every handshake will be analyzed. Every close call will be scrutinized. Every crowd reaction will be amplified. The bad blood is real, and it has transformed routine matchups into must-watch events. This was no longer just about tennis results. It was about narrative, memory, and unfinished business. While debate raged online, Eala stayed focused on what mattered most. The gold medal match awaited. She did not engage in public arguments. She did not issue statements or fuel controversy. She let her racket speak, the same way it had all week. When she stepped onto the court for the final, she carried herself with the calm confidence of someone who had already weathered the storm. She played with clarity, authority, and purpose, ultimately securing the SEA Games gold medal and officially claiming her place at the top of Southeast Asian tennis. The medal around her neck was more than metal. It was validation. It was proof that composure, discipline, and belief can overpower noise, hostility, and pressure. With that victory, Alex Eala closed one chapter and opened another. She had conquered the region. There was nothing left for her to prove at this level. But champions do not linger at conquered peaks. They search for higher mountains. Her sights are now set firmly on the global stage, pushing deeper into the WTA rankings, breaking into the top 50, and making meaningful runs at Grand Slam tournaments. The skill is there. The work ethic is undeniable. Most importantly, the mental toughness has been tested and confirmed under fire. What happened in Thailand was not a distraction from her growth. It was a catalyst. This incident also sparked broader conversations about sportsmanship, accountability, and pressure in regional competitions. Should athletes face consequences for conduct that occurs off the court but within official tournament areas? Should governing bodies enforce stricter behavioral standards to prevent similar incidents? Should there be greater emphasis on emotional regulation and cultural respect in high-stakes international events? These questions will continue to be debated, but they should never overshadow the central truth of this story. Alex Eala walked into the most hostile environment imaginable and emerged untouched, her reputation enhanced rather than diminished. She did not respond with anger. She responded with excellence. As time passes, details may blur, arguments may fade, and emotions may cool, but one fact will remain unchanged. The scoreboard from that semifinal will always read 6-1, 6-4. It will always tell the same story. It will never mention crowd noise, delays, accusations, or hallway meltdowns. It will simply record who played better when it mattered. And in Nonthaburi, Alex Eala was undeniably superior. Respect was not requested. It was earned. This story is far from over, and we want to hear your perspective. Was Naklo's outburst a forgivable lapse fueled by disappointment, or did it cross a line that demands accountability? Was Eala's response the perfect mic drop moment, or should officials have intervened more decisively? How do you think this rivalry will evolve when these two meet again? Because history suggests they will. Share your thoughts in the comments, Because Champions Tennis is more than a channel, it is a community built on passionate discussion and honest storytelling. If you stayed with us through this entire deep dive, thank you. We dedicate countless hours to uncovering the stories that often get sanitized or ignored, the moments that reveal who athletes truly are when the cameras stop smiling. If this story moved you, taught you something, or gave you a new perspective, show your support by hitting the like button. It helps this content reach other fans who crave real, unfiltered tennis drama. Share this story with friends, family, and fellow tennis lovers who appreciate intensity, resilience, and class under pressure. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Champions Tennis and turn on notifications. We are committed to covering the stories others won't, from global stages to regional battlegrounds, from rising juniors to established stars. We will be following the Eala versus Naklo rivalry closely, tracking every development, every rematch, and every response. Until next time, keep your passion for the game alive, remember that class outlasts noise, and never forget the lesson delivered in Thailand. The scoreboard never lies. Excellence always speaks louder than excuses.